Hi, welcome to You, Me and Mediumship. Tonight, as you probably guessed by the title, I'm going to be talking about the foundation. Not necessarily as the foundation of mediumship itself, but your foundation. Just to give you a grasp of where you need to be at the beginning of your journey, the understanding that maybe you need to grasp to be able to move on, move forward in your development. So the foundation itself, okay, what I'm talking of here is, I guess, a real understanding of the process of mediumship, a real understanding of where you're coming from, what you need to be doing, what you need to be understanding, and what you need to be working with. So for a start, and I think I've said this before, if you stand in front of a mirror and look at yourself and realize that nothing that you see in that mirror is going to help you with your mediumship. Nothing at all. So that is literally the body, temple, if you like, in which you are housed. So we need to be looking at what we do need to be using, what we do need to be putting out there for spirit, for energy to be able to merge with us, to be able to communicate with us. So you need to have a good grasp of what it is you need to be working on to be able to enhance that communication. So if we look for a start, say, at the body itself, we have the mind, which is the computer that makes everything tick, I guess. So the mind itself, like I said, is a computer. Okay, it stores information just like a computer would, and it has a memory just like a computer does. So it literally keeps you functioning day in, day out. And obviously with the memory side of things, it brings things forward so that you know how to deal with things in everyday life. So there will be experiences that you've gone through in the past that will come forward, and you will use those experiences to deal with that particular circumstance. So obviously it has its place, and like I've said before, the mind itself is there to protect you, to protect the body. You are told when that body is hungry, when that body needs to rest. It will tell you all these things, and also through pain, you know when something is wrong, when we need to get ourselves to the doctors, when we're not feeling too good. So it does all those things for us, ticks all the boxes, and keeps us alive, basically, here whilst we're in this particular realm. So there is the function of the mind. It obviously senses through our senses, through our vision, our sense of smell, hearing, taste, etc. So the senses feed the mind and tell us if we need to put that woolly jumper on or pair of shorts or whatever. Obviously the senses we know, we rely on to keep us functioning correctly and wisely, if you like. So that's the function of the mind. So if we took away, for argument's sake, all the senses, what would the mind then do? It'd be quite interesting, really. You see these movies on telly, like, I don't know, the sci-fi movies with brains floating around in jars and things like that. It would be interesting. What would the mind do if we took those senses away? It would be, I guess, in a way, kind of in limbo, because without the senses, the outer senses that we have, the touch, the taste, etc., then he would have nothing really to work with. Without sight, for argument's sake, without the light itself coming in through the eye, it would not have any vision at all. It wouldn't be able to obviously, it wouldn't know where it was, for a start. So, it needs those senses to be able to function correctly. So it's a marvelous machine. We are marvelous in every way. The mind, is well beyond any computer really that we can build. It's a fascinating piece of kit, if you like. So, as fascinating as it may well be, it is of no use to us in the realms of what we are trying to do. And although, like I've said in the past, that the memory side of it, spirit has access to and will use that side of it to be able to communicate images through us, to reenact, if you like, things we've been through, so we understand what it is they are trying to tell us. They will give us image of things that we have experienced in our lives, so that we can then understand what it is spirit is trying to tell us, to pass on to a loved one, to pass on to a sitter. So, yeah, there are aspects of it that spirit can use, but their real interest is outside of that, and our real interest is also outside of that. The problem we have with the mind is, like I said, it's like a computer with memory. It has millions of different experiences within it that we've been through, we've lived through. It has all the emotions that we have really come to the forefront of our minds in different circumstances. So it has, happiness, sadness, the grief when we lose someone, all the different emotions are all there. Love, hate, jealousy, all those type of things are all inbuilt. Things that sometimes are part of us that has been brought down through, obviously, our families, and we've inherited some of the aspects of our family traits, obviously. So all that is, one big jumble in there somewhere. So, it holds a lot of experience. But the soul itself, obviously, is completely separate from that mind. The good thing is that sometimes we can try and forget, if we can, all the things that this mind has stored within it. Not everything, obviously, because we'd just be one big mess, wouldn't we, if we forgot everything. But there are certain aspects of our experiences and our perceptions that it would be good as a medium to try and put to one side. So if we imagine things like, for argument's sake, certain religious aspects, some of the different stories that link in with religion, that have been put there by man, not necessarily by any god, but by man in a way that we can be controlled. And obviously there are the good sides of these things that we've been taught over the years through different religions. There are the good things, the love one another things. All those things are a positive thing. But what about all the things that we experience in our life? We go through a lot of negative things in our lives, which make an imprint within us, within our own minds. So we need, in a sense, to be able to push that all away, all to one side. If we look at the aspect of religion, just touch on that for now, but we know, we have to be logical and factful about this. We know that there are, different religions have different gods. They have different forms. There are thousands of different gods that are, I guess, not just studied over the years, but thousands of different gods that have been worshipped over the years. So, if we took in all that information and based our mediumship upon all that information, well, we probably wouldn't be able to be honest. It'd be too vast. It'd be massive. We wouldn't get it at all. We couldn't make our mediumship fit, for a start, in a number of religions, because it's looked down upon in some religions. even though the aspect of communication with spirit is a massive part of a lot of those religions, it is still what we do is frowned upon. So some young mediums struggle with that. They worry that maybe, they will be frowned upon, which unfortunately sometimes we are. But we need to look beyond that. We need to think outside of the box. And if you think logically about it, if we go to different countries, there are different languages, for argument's sake. So if we have a single word, if we take, say, a French word for a bed, and then you've got the English version of bed, if you like, both mean exactly the same thing and relate to the same object. So all the different religions with the different gods, in a sense, do exactly that. They all relate to the same, I say an object, but the same energy. They all relate to a god. They have different names, that we have different understandings about what they say is right, what they say is wrong. It's because we are all we're all brought up in different cultures, in different countries. But like I said, like the language is vastly different, but they all relate to the same things. The words relate to the same objects, if you like, even though they are vastly different. And that's the same in religion. There are many different deities. There are many different descriptions of those deities. There are many different, even if you look through some of the drawings of some of the gods, they're all vastly different, but they all relate to the same thing, that power, that energy, that source. So, but all that is obviously programmed into us from birth, and sometimes it can be very confusing, and in a sense it has nothing whatsoever to do with our ability to communicate with spirit. We need to push all that away, all that to one side, and try and get a grasp of what it is we are doing. We are, when we sit in the power, and even in everyday meditation, what we are doing to bring peace is basically walking away from this life, what's been programmed into us, what we've been led to understand through meditation, through sitting in the power. We are walking away from that. We are shedding it. And that's why we get so much peace. We sense that love and that warmth. So what's important is we understand, that by sitting in the power, as developing mediums, by doing so, we are simply shedding all that perception, all that information that we have been force-fed since we were knee-high to a grasshopper. We are shedding it. We are letting go of it. Hence the peace. So we are letting that go. So that is something you need to grasp. We are not using anything in the physical whatsoever, and that includes the information that we've been fed. We are going to go out there, sitting in the power, open-minded, forgetting about the day, forgetting about our lifetime, if you like, and just work on that one energy that is there for us to communicate with, the source of all that is, the Great Spirit. That is what we are trying to do. By reaching out into that energy field, we are then, in a way, saying hi. We are, in a way, saying, I'm here. I'm ready to communicate. I would love to get messages from loved ones for this sitter, this person that is sat before me. I wish to pass on messages from yourselves, from the loved ones, to give to this sitter. So, yeah, it's not easy. It's not an easy thing to do, obviously, because you are back and forth within two realms, initially trying to be in two places at once. And it takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication, a lot a lot of self-training, a lot of training with spirit to understand how to make that happen. So, in a nutshell, get a grasp of the fact that physically and mentally you are doing absolutely nothing with those two parts of self. The physical side of self and the mental side of selves, you are literally doing nothing with. You are walking away with it and you are leaving it where it is, and you are allowing the spirit that is within you, you are allowing that to come forward, and you are allowing that to do the work. So all that talking about self and getting to know self is all about getting to know that energy and what it is, where it is, how it feels, how you sense that, how you bring that out of self, how you leave the rest of self behind, the material side of self. You're leaving that behind and you're just working with that energy within you. You are putting that out there. You can obviously, thought is energy. So that thought that you're putting out there, that intent you're putting out there, is very important, because that thought, that energy thought, is something that will be picked up upon and will be worked with. So that is your intent. So you sit with your intent by putting that thought out there. I'm sitting for you, Spirit. I'm sitting here now so that we can get to know one another, we can understand one another, so we can work together with bringing your world into this world so people can understand or live better lives and have an understanding that life does go on. Put the thought out there. And it's the same with when you're doing a demonstration. Before you go out there and do that, put that thought out there. Sit with that thought. Sit in the power. Get your energy out and ready for it to work and merge with the energy of spirit. So no matter how nice the suit is, or the dress that you've got on, however well you might present yourself, and obviously it's important to present yourself in a certain way, but really that is just the front of what is out there on that stage. That is just a false front. What's the work is really going on beyond that body, beyond that soul. So yes, it's nice to look nice, and without doubt you have to be totally respectful, but they always say that a medium really is as good as the last message, which is very true. They will not remember what colour tie you had on, how well dressed you were. They will remember the accuracy of that message that you give. Like I've said before, and I get told off with this, but there is no rule book with this, because you are using your soul, your energy, and nobody will ever know that better than you. Nobody ever will. You know self better than what anybody does. So that is what you need to grasp. You need to get to know that self. So that is what you put out there. Okay, so your foundation is self. Forget about body. You're walking away from that, if you like. You're energizing outside of that body. You are putting that soul out there to do the work, and then obviously you will relay the message in a physical way to your sitter. So the art of drifting between the two, going to your place, going to your space, coming back, giving that information back to your space again to get more information. And sometimes the information isn't clear. You need to go back and ask for clearer information, or just to verify something that you haven't quite picked up. But this is very quick, and obviously the vibration of spirit is very quick, so you tend to work very fast. And sometimes you see this within some mediums will be very active, like a nervous energy. It's because they are working on a high vibration. Okay, they can be very descriptive with their hands. I tend to work a lot with my hands. I feel energy through my hands. So if I'm describing something, hands are flying around all over the place. So it's just the way I work. But it is very, very intense sometimes and very quick. So this takes time to perfect. This takes time to control. So it's important also that you learn to control that energy. Okay, control it as best you can. The spirit are obviously working very hard. They are really slowing their vibration to a point that we can pick up our vibration and the two can merge. So there's an understanding between us. So it merges well, so it's nice and clear. The message is nice and clear. The vision is nice and clear. And obviously the clairaudience is nice and clear. It's when we can get the two vibrations as close as we can together so they are in harmony. That is the point at which the communication will take place, where the two vibrations are working very, very closely together. So that's what we need to be aiming at. So, yeah, do your hair. Obviously, you see I don't have to worry about that. But look nice when you do your demonstrations and what have you. But most of all, don't worry about that too much. Just make sure that you have a grasp of what it is that you're putting out there for spirit to merge with. Work on that. That is the most important part. Get that thought out there. Get that intent out there. Build that relationship with spirit. It will just be, as time goes on, it's virtually automatic. Spirit know when you're going to be working. They are there with you. The second you start to work, they are there because they are more than aware that you're doing a reading that night. I always, through the day, give thanks. Thank you for what you're going to do tonight. I know you're going to be there. I know that you won't let me down, and I appreciate that so much. And thank you for working so hard with me. And through the day, I will make odd little statements just to be thankful for what they do. Never let you down. They will always be there for you. So there's just a few little hints there about your foundation. Get that side of things right first. Get that understanding. That sitting in the power, that pushing that energy out, is getting that soul out there, your energy out there. Nothing to do with the physical or mental side of you at all. So get to know that self so you can use it properly and get some really good evidence. And that's what we're here for, and that's what we try to do, obviously. So I hope you like the video. I really do. I'm not here to put religion down or anything like that. It's, to me, it's a logical thing. It's understanding, just like language, it varies, it's different, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to the same thing. It's a pity we have to fight over it. There's wars over it, but that's just man. And obviously, we all pray that one day that will all end, and the world will be in peace. It's just a matter of respecting each other's opinions. It's a matter of respecting that we're all different and just letting people live their way of life. We don't need to be fighting over this. We just need to understand there is but one God. And however you think he looks and however we think he looks doesn't matter. We just need to know that he's there. So take care. Please like and subscribe to the videos. I appreciate all of you that have subscribed. Please share them too. And also the mentorship side on Patreon. I'm getting some lovely people coming on board now to spend some time with me, one-to-one, so we can do some mentorship, and thoroughly enjoying that. So I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Take care. Patreon, You, Me and Mediumship. I always forget to say that, and people say, where is it? It's You, Me and Mediumship on Patreon. So I'll put a link in under the description as well. So take care. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye for now.